Welcome back to the podcast. Today we got a special guest. He's a real estate investor, a YouTuber. What else? What else would I say? Like what?
Family man,
Entrepreneur,
all that stuff.
Mr. Jamel Gibbs, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me, man.
So we're gonna jump straight in this, man. Like, tell the people a little bit about your childhood or your upbringing.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Red Hook Projects in Brooklyn, New York. Parents didn't have a financial background. Obviously, we lived in the projects. So financial literacy wasn't something that was abundant when I was a kid. My father worked a seasonal construction job. My mother was a paraprofessional in the school system, which she wasn't always a paraprofessional. I grew up, I remember the white food stamp books. We had that with different colors in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember growing up with some of those and just not having a lot when I was a kid. So my mother, she had kids young. She had me when she was 17, and I'm the oldest of four. My mother was really the breadwinner. My father was kind of assisting because his job just wasn't consistent enough. So, because of that, we had certain circumstances, that, we had to live through in order to survive. So my mother, I remember one Sunday, she woke me up and said, go to the store and buy $20 worth of newspapers. And I started my newspaper route. When I was a kid, I used to work on tips. And then I learned how to cut hair when I was 9 years old. And I started charging people $5 to cut them on the stoop. So, right, in the projects, in front of the building, we call it the stoop. And I used to have customers lined up. 9 years old, $5. Then I started hustling people with checkers and chess, still undefeated today. When I was in high school, I opened up my own barbershop. And, while I was high school, that's kind of how I took care of myself. Fresh out of high school, I didn't go to college. I went straight to Wall Street. I was offered a position as a cold caller on Wall Street. And, like I was telling you before we started recording, when you're on Wall Street, you're talking to people worth $100, $200, $300 million, which is equivalent to probably $500 to $1 billion today. So I had to learn how to get these people on the phone, get them to invest into, or at least spark some interest in getting them to invest into currency trading. And then from there, I was able to learn how to talk to these people. So when you're learning how to talk to business owners, you have to move your mouth when you speak. That's what I learned down on Wall Street, right? So you got to learn how to talk the language. If you sound ignorant on the phone, then the chances of you getting them to invest in you is slim to none. But like we was talking, these days being an entrepreneur is different than back then because it's cool to be an entrepreneur today. And, I like to say being an entrepreneur is like being a new rapper. It's like being a new drug dealer. It's like they're hip-hop-ifying. I just made up that word. Hip-hop-ifying being an entrepreneur today. So you don't necessarily have to have the same basic skills that you needed to be an entrepreneur 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I first started in business. So, you could literally talk the talk, walk the walk the way you want to do it today versus back then you needed to know how to speak properly in order to get people to believe that you is that person that they could trust. You know what I mean? So that was the difference between back then and now. So that's kind of how I grew up, man. Fresh out of high school, went down to Wall Street. I was on Wall Street for 2 years until 9/11. After 9/11, I got into real estate, and this is all she wrote.
Growing up, and you didn't have the inspiration from your community to be an entrepreneur. Like where?
Well,
where did that come from?
really, man, when you grow up in the hood, man, all we know is being entrepreneurs. It's the type of entrepreneurs we decide to be. Because really, to me, being an entrepreneur is about survival. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't understand that. So, like, especially African Americans as a whole, to me, we're some of the most creative people. Because when number one, when your back is up against the wall, you find ways to fight out. You find ways, you can't go nowhere but up. You find ways to create circumstances for yourself that will allow you to be able to live the life. You're not even thinking about it. Sometimes you just do stuff because you're in survival mode. So when you broke, you're literally, and don't get me wrong, but when you don't have anything, when you poor, to me, poor is a mindset. We could get into that. Broke is temporary, right? But when you're poor, here's an example of poor. I'm not gonna invest into myself. I'd rather take this money and go buy a pair of sneakers. That's poor mindset. When you're broke is temporary. Broke doesn't necessarily mean that you're poor. It means that you're temporarily in a position, but as long as you have an abundance mindset, you won't be broke forever.
Gotcha.
So when you're fighting as an entrepreneur, when you're doing things just to survive, your creativity comes out. To me, I think when your back is up against the wall and when you face hard times, that's when some of the most creative thinking comes out. So that's why I do creative real estate investing, right? When your back is up against the wall and you're broke and you need to get out of your situation, at the end of the day, your creativity will shine. You know, I think some of the most brilliant and most genius things come out of a person when they have nothing but to make something happen. So sometimes when you're going through a period of or a broke season, let's just call it that. I think sometimes when you're going through that broke season, what happens is you do things just to survive, and those things turns into an experience that you can use later on in life. Let me give you an example. So and I might be going off on a little tantrum right now, but this is definitely going to play a part in what we're talking about. But I remember before Toro came out, I did Toro, right? And I'm not saying that to sound arrogant or nothing like that, but when I was young, I had to take care of myself. I've been taking care of myself financially since I was 12 years old, right? Started a business when I was 7. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, so my mother needed help. My father didn't have a lot of money. I needed to take care of myself. So like I said, I've been taking care of myself since I was 12. So I did things in order to survive, right? So an example of me doing Toro before Toro came out was I used to work in a barbershop before I got my own barbershop. When I would lock up at the barbershop, I would literally go to the cab stand, and there was a guy there, his name was Domingo, or a Dominican guy. His name was Domingo. He used to rent me his car for $65. He was one of the cab drivers. When he went home, I would rent his car for $65 a night.
That's crazy.
And I would drive people to the Bronx, all over New York City, right? I'm from Brooklyn. And I would make that extra money till 4 o'clock in the morning.
What year was this?
This was back in like 99,
That's
around
crazy.
2000, right before I really started taking off from real estate.
Gotcha.
So I would work in a barbershop. Then I would go rent the car from him, pay him rent, fill his car back up with gas, and keep the rest. That's like Toro.
Yeah. 100%,
Right?
100%.
Same thing. But I did it out of survival. I didn't think to build a business. Somebody else came up with the idea to build a business out of it. But I was doing it just because I needed to make the extra money.
Yeah.
I didn't have a car. So I rented the car. I went and negotiated to rent the car from, I'm 19 years old.
That's genius. That's
you know what I
genius.
mean? So I did stuff like that. And there's a ton of stories I have like that.
Yeah.
When I operate out of survival mode, you come up with some of the most genius stuff. So being an entrepreneur, we looked up the drug dealers growing up because that's all we knew. But being an entrepreneur is the new drug dealer. It is the new hip hop artist. It is the new this and that. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but not everybody is built to be an entrepreneur. That's the difference.
I agree. So let's jump into this real estate talk, man. That's what anybody that know you, that's what they want to probably hear about. When you got into, first off, did you start out investing, or did you start out as like a typical real estate agent? Like, how did that
Good
happen?
question, man. So I started off as a typical real estate agent. So a friend of mine, his name is TJ. He's probably listening to this right now. I don't know, but he used to work for one of the largest firms in Brooklyn, New York. It's called Fillmore Real Estate. It's still in existence today. And one day I saw him bring home a crazy check. It was high double-digit check, right? Mm-hmm. I was on Wall Street. I saw young guys my age making that kind of money consistently. The problem was Wall Street was done. So when I was on Wall Street, you know, there were guys 19, 20, 21 years old making millions of dollars a year, right? They had the nice cars. Wall Street opened up my mind to a whole different level of financial literacy, and financial understanding. Wall Street just opened it up. Those guys, I saw guys before Wall Street, the only people I saw living the way those guys were living were either on TV. You had Jay-Z, right? Because Jay-Z, I remember meeting Jay-Z when I was a young guy. He was the first guy. I was 13, 14. I was in junior high school when I met Jay-Z, before Reasonable Doubt came out. Yeah. It was one year, Fat Joe and Big Pun, all of them performed at the Atlantic Antic in Brooklyn. I walked, there was a corner on, right now the Barclays Center is there. Okay. On Flatbush Avenue and 5th. Jay-Z and Dame Dash, I didn't know who they were back then, because I used to be a rapper too. I was in the music industry when I was a teenager. But Jay-Z and Dame Dash, they were standing on Flatbush and 5th Avenue, and we were standing by this gate. Jay-Z had this white Lexus with TVs in it. I never saw that before in my life. Yeah. Right? Next thing you know, I got their phone, and my mother washed the jeans that, long story short, they had an office downtown Manhattan at that time. My mother washed the jeans with Dame Dash's phone number in it, and I lost contact with them. Yeah, kids, who knows where I could have been?
Yeah, kids, we used to have to write numbers down. Pre-cell phones, man.
Yeah. So long story short, I remember it was me and my friend Mike. We were sitting there. We had a little hip hop session with Jay-Z. It was me rapping. It was Jay-Z rapping. It was Mike rapping. Dame Dash was just listening. Before we left, they said, "Yo, keep it up. Give me your number." Yada yada yada. At the end of the day, a few months later, I saw Jay-Z drop a single, and I was like, "Yo, that's that guy I was hanging." Long story short, we were. He was the first person I ever seen with something like that, and I was like, that. I was just blown away. When I got down on Wall Street, it was a common thing to see young guys in their early 20s, mid 20s, making millions of dollars, Rolexes, diamonds in the Rolexes, nice cars, big houses. That was a common thing. So I was inspired by that initially. When you're young, you kind of want what you didn't have. Right. Me growing up in the projects, it was, I couldn't see past that. Right. So it was some of the things I was exposed to during my life, which kind of changed my mindset on certain things that allowed me to become who I am today. So I think the things that you experience in life make you the person you are. That was an example of that. So down on Wall Street, I was exposed to a different type of life. And when I got into real estate, I already had that abundance mindset, which kind of allowed me to, really know how to operate my business in a way to be able to blow it up quick. So TJ came home with this check. Wall Street was done because of 9/11. I couldn't do that. I didn't want to rebuild it, so I got into real estate. I became an agent. It took me 2 weeks to get a license. It took me some time to really understand how to maneuver as an agent. But while I was an agent, on the side, I'm looking at some of these guys making big money, and they were all buying houses. And I said, I need to be doing what they're doing. I don't want to be the guy making 6% commission. Mm-hmm. I want to be the guy buying the buildings. Mm-hmm. And that kind of changed my mindset. So shortly after becoming an agent, I started looking into investing.
How do I want to say this? What was that amount that you got when you said, okay, this is definitely what I need to focus on going forward. Like,
Good question, man. So I remember it took me 13 months to make $1,500. Right, I wholesaled. I didn't even know they called it because it wasn't called wholesaling back then. I flipped a business. So I knew somebody who wanted to buy a business, and I knew somebody who wanted to sell one. I made $1,500. So I said, if I could do that on a commercial sandwich shop, then I could do that with a house. So there was this building, this house, a brownstone in Fort Greene. I knew somebody who wanted to buy it. I put two and two together, made $48,000. I was still living in the projects at that time. That changed my life, and it changed the way I thought about it. I really started taking it serious.
That's awesome. So $48,000 on your second
Crazy,
deal.
man. And then it was 20s after that, some 10s, some 15s, some 30s.
And this is years ago. So
years ago, man.
That
was
that's
significant
a lot of
money.
Yeah.
It wasn't. To me, it was a lot of money, but I saw people making that already, so it wasn't a lot of money. Because I saw guys bringing home $100,000, $200,000, $500,000. So to me, that wasn't a lot of. It was a lot of money given my circumstances, but I still never settled for that money.
And you're still in your 20s at this time. Right?
I was in my early 20s.
Early 20s. All right. So you said you was inspired, like you gave the little story about Jay-Z and seeing the car with the TVs and all that.
Jay-Z won't even remember that story, man.
Right. So you were influenced by what you saw. So at the point when you're getting $48,000 checks, did you blow money back then? Did you buy jewelry? What's the craziest purchase that you made when you started?
Man, I bought. It was crazy, man. So $48,000. I wanted. First off, the first thing I did was, that was more on one check than both my parents made an entire year together combined. They made like $40,000 collectively, right? So first thing I did was I showed my mother the check, and I gave my mother some money, right? I went and bought a nice watch. I went and bought a little hoopty because I didn't have a car. And I just started buying all these clothes and just having fun, man. And, when you're not financially literate, like I could have took that money and really scaled that money up. I didn't know any better.
Right.
And that's why I have my YouTube channel today, to teach people what to do and what not to do, from learning from my mistakes. How Jay-Z said, I did that so you wouldn't have to go through that, right?
Absolutely.
So I made any mistake you could think of financially, I done made the mistake.
Gotcha.
And that's why I'm so conservative with money today. That's why I choose not to show people my lifestyle on Instagram and on social media. That's why when I'm talking to you, I tell you stuff like that.
Right.
Like people be like, oh, why don't you go buy this, and why don't you go get a Lambo, and why don't you? I'm not doing that, because, and if I do, you never know it, because I don't want to show it to you, because that's a facade.
But don't you feel like, to a certain extent, especially with, I can only speak on what I see in our community, to get people's attention sometimes.
I don't care about having people's attention, man.
But if you're trying to educate them, that
I get it.
To reach some people, you almost have to make them feel like, they personally have to feel like he's better than me before they even listen to you.
So let me explain something, man. I've been teaching people for 15 years. I'm willing to bet that a large portion of people who are educating people today learn something from me. I remember when I first started, when I came into this teaching industry, there was no other young black guys doing it. A couple years later, my man Antonio came in. After that, my man Chris Bruce came in. Kenny Russian is another one. It was probably me and Kenny who started the whole thing off, right? But shortly after that, we had Antonio and Chris. So it was maybe 2 or 3 of us, maybe 4 of us doing it. Everybody else was not black, right? So I understand what you say when you say I have to show a little, or I should show a little bit of it. I'm not saying that you're saying it. It's a question.
Yeah, it's a question. Yeah.
But really, I never subscribed to that, because I believe that, I've been teaching people long enough. I think my track record, my credentials speak for themselves, and I don't have to show you. You can hear me speak and know that you're gonna learn something from me, and that's the clientele. Gotcha. That's the type of person that I want to work with. I don't want to work with the person. I don't want to. Not that I don't want to help people who subscribe to that type of stuff, but I think when you come in with a get rich quick mindset, which I think, showing material things is basically you're gonna draw in those type of people. I think that's gonna create a headache for me. I'm not in business to create a headache for myself. I'm in business to, number one, help myself and help people, right? So I think that when you hear me speak, when you hear, people can just tell. I get people every day. They say, I separate myself from everybody else. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I create my lifestyle the way I want to live it, and nobody else controls that. So I also control the type of people on purpose. I control the type of people that I want in my circle. If I subscribe to the, I got to show this and show that and have the biggest audience, then I'm just like everybody else. You know what I mean? I don't subscribe to that. I subscribe to the fact that I create the type of people I want around me, even if it's a smaller crowd. I agree. And guess what? I still make probably more money than everybody else who's spending, showing that stuff on Instagram.
Did they officially announce that we're in a recession? Or
I've been telling you we was in a recession for several weeks. They tried to deny it the other day.
Yeah, they tried to deny it, but per the definition of what a recession is, we are. Because what is it? If you have two consecutive, and if I'm wrong, y'all let me know, but I think it's when you have two consecutive quarters in the negative.
That's a recession.
We've had that, right?
Yep.
So with that being the case, and then I've been seeing articles on Facebook just saying that the housing bubble was about to pop and yada yada yada. Is it too late for somebody that's broke and they're trying to get into what you're doing? Is it too late?
No, man. So I've lived through the Great Recession. I've operated my businesses. I went bankrupt during the Great Recession because I didn't know what I was doing. What I realized and what I know now, I'm doing better now than I was over the last 5 years. Easily. And it's because this is a time of opportunity. So Warren Buffett said, when there's blood in the street, it's time to buy, right? I don't know if he said it in that exact way, but that's what he meant. The opportunities arise when people are running. So think about it like this, man. And I said this, I created a post on Instagram a couple years ago. I said, overnight gurus are about to be obsolete. I don't know if you remember, I posted that.
I remember you telling me.
It's about early pandemic, 2020-ish. I said overnight gurus are about to be obsolete. You know why? I said, basically, when the market is hot, everybody's a genius.
Right.
Everybody knows how to make money. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody becomes a guru. When the market is not hot, people are scrambling. When the market is not hot, when everybody's talking about it, it's probably not a good time to get into it. You'll make some money in a hot market, in a bull market, but you become wealthy in a bear market. Gotcha. And people don't understand that, right? So over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's been a hot real estate market. It was a bull market. Now we're heading into a bear market. This is when you become wealthy. But most people are going to run from the wealth because they don't understand that. Oh, real estate is dipping. I heard somebody say that they was talking to somebody recently and said, why are you getting into real estate now?
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
That's when you wanna get into real estate. Yeah. Less competition, way more opportunities, and way more wealth created in a bear market than a bull market. So for all of these gurus that popped up over the last 5 years because it was a hot market, you saw everybody running a real estate ad on Instagram, and now how many real estate ads do you see?
I don't see. I used to see them all the time on YouTube. I don't see them like as often.
That's because we're heading into a bear market, and those guys are running. They made their money. They're gone. Yeah. Me, this is my 4th market cycle I'm going into. I understand how the game is played, man. So I'm gonna clean up. So you asked me if now is a good time to be in real estate. Is it a fantastic time to be doing anything?
Is it a certain? Because I know there's multiple things you can do, like wholesaling, fix and flip. Is a certain thing you should be doing right now? Like, is it
I like to have a combo effect, man. My thing is wholesale for quick cash. I think wholesaling is a temporary thing. I've done a lot of wholesaling. It can keep feeding you, putting food on the table. I think wholesaling is great, but along with wholesaling, you have high taxes. You're literally in the highest tax bracket when you're wholesaling real estate. So I think you should wholesale to keep some money coming into the business for cash, but I think you need to take that cash. It depends. If you're going to create a lifestyle off of wholesaling, you're making a mistake. I think you need to take that cash and create passive cash flow assets. So I like creative real estate investing, seller finance, sub-twos, lease options, things like that, in addition to wholesaling. But more so than any of that, I love the buy and hold because that's where the real wealth is built in real estate. The longer you own a house, the more money you make on a house.
So I've noticed, especially since the pandemic hit back in 2020 and then going throughout 2021, I saw everybody talking about like Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And I never really heard you speak on it. Or were you against it? Or
I'm not against it. I think it's a great way to make some money, but I like to use proven strategies that have worked for hundreds of years. I'm not, I'm not against Airbnb, but I think that Airbnb can be controlled by somebody else. So for example, look at what they're doing in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right. You're only allowed to own two Airbnbs, to my understanding. I'm not sure of the whole logistics behind it, but you're only allowed to have two Airbnbs. You have to live in Atlanta. So basically it can be regulated. Right. I don't want to back myself against a wall and focus on one strategy. I think you need to diversify within real estate in order to really operate effectively. But at the end of the day, I think that when somebody can regulate it, or when I'm basing my entire business model around someone else's company, Airbnb is somebody else's company, right? Yeah. Then I'm losing. I'm setting myself up for failure. That's like a YouTube channel. I can create an audience on YouTube or Instagram. They could change the algorithm today, and then my whole business is done.
Yeah, that's happened to some people.
Actually. Or
so account gets banned.
That's right. Yeah. I just don't want to base the way I do business around one thing.
Gotcha.
I build my own audience. I have my own I got close to 200,000 followers on my email subscriber database, right? I take my audience offline and create and continue to build it. I had over 1 million people go through my products and services over the last 15 years, right? I clean my list every 6 months, or I'm sorry, every month. I move lists every 6 months. I'm constantly building my audience, constantly refreshing my audience, removing people that don't open my emails, things like that. I have control over that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not relying on a YouTube or Instagram or Facebook platform who has control over that audience. I take the audience offline, and I continue to build my audience and nurture the relationship offline. That's how you control your own stuff.
Have you heard about? I've been seeing a couple stories online where people that rent like the long-term Airbnbs, mm-hmm. they've pretty much been refusing to move out, and the owner, they don't have any protection. It almost seems like
at that point they become a squatter, man.
Yeah.
Once you're in a house for 30 days, you're a squatter, bro.
I didn't even know that was something that could happen. I saw a woman that was like, she called the cops, and there's nothing she really can do right now.
So you know why there's so many issues with and I'm not saying, look, there's people making bank on Airbnb, but when you sell the get rich quick part of it and not the business part of it, it becomes a problem.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So even if I buy Airbnb and I rent Airbnb, I'm still doing my numbers based on having a regular rental.
Gotcha.
Airbnb is just a plus. That's just cream of the crop, right? That's just allowing that extra money to come in. Nothing wrong with short-term rentals at all. But when you base your entire business model around short-term rentals and buying overpriced properties, you're going to fail. And I'm going to be buying your house eventually. Yeah. So y'all keep buying Airbnbs and overpaying for them. Just when times get hard, just know who you could call. I'm right here.
How do you feel about these big firms that are just coming in buying up all the new real estate? Have you heard about that?
I think it's just a way for them to hide their money, man, write off some tax dollars. Real estate is probably the best investment vehicle you could use to alleviate having to pay taxes, man. That's why, people were mad at Trump, and people were mad at, you hear guys like Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki and these guys talking about they don't pay any taxes is because of the way they structured their real estate investing.
You don't feel threatened by that?
Not at all.
Hearing that most of the new purchases are coming from these
Not
big
at all,
firms?
man. I think they're creating more opportunities for me.
Okay.
So it hasn't affected my business. How long they've been buying houses? Over 5 years. It hasn't affected me not one bit. So I don't subscribe to the hype, man. I focus on what I do for myself, focus on what I continue to do, and I use them as an asset. I can sell properties to those guys if I want to wholesale. I can make money. I could get top dollar for these properties. I know they're going to pay 98 cents on a dollar. They're going to overpay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't think about that.
So rather than trying to, if you can't beat them, join them, right? Rather than trying to fight against them, join them. Make some money with them. There's enough money in this world for everybody, man.
So outside of real estate investing, what else do you do? I know you were playing around with crypto a little while ago. You still?
I played around with crypto. I remember when Bitcoin was about $1,000 to $1,500. I started buying some of that. I don't have a huge crypto portfolio. That's not what I believe in. I think crypto is volatile. I started buying some EFTs for passive income, compound interest through the S&P 500. I think that was a great way to position yourself before the recession. Yeah. I think it might be a little too late. Not necessarily. I think it's actually still a great time to buy.
Buy on a dip? That's what they say?
Buy on a dip, man. That's how you buy. That's how you buy real estate too. You know what I mean? I think you become wealthy on a dip. I think you make money in a bull market, you become wealthy in a bear market. So you can still make some money even when the market is up, but when it's down, that's when you make most of the money. So I have EFTs, I have I diversified a little bit, but besides real estate investing per se, I have my coaching business. I've been doing that for 15 years. I have home study courses that bring in consistent cash. I have real estate software. Diversification, man. That's what it's all about.
So we kind of spoke a little bit about this off mic, but when do you're a successful guy. When do you feel like hanging up your hat, man? And just
I don't know, man. I was thinking about taking off a year. My son is going to be born in a couple months. In a couple weeks, about 6 weeks. My son will be here.
That time just flew by, man.
Yeah, and I have four daughters already. I'm not having any more kids, so I don't know, man. I was thinking about, I kind of semi-retired when I was 30, and to me, semi-retired is still, it's choosing to work because you want to, not because you have to, right? I work because I want to, not because I have to. So I'm considering taking off a year. Maybe before I'm 45, I'll take off a whole year. I don't think I'm ever going to stop working because I don't feel like I work. This is stuff I love to do, and I'm making a lot of money doing it. So why stop? You know what I mean? So, I take off some time just to spend with my family. I only work 3 days a week now. I spend a ton of time with my family, but to give them a whole year of my time, I think I am going to do that. Will it affect my audience? Probably. Do I care? Not that I don't care about my audience, but my family is more important than my audience.
Right.
It's not going to affect my lifestyle at all. I'm in a position to do it if I wanted to. As far as hanging it up, I don't think I'm ever gonna. I'm gonna work to the day I die.
So, what do you do? What do you do for leisure, man?
Man, I like bodybuilding. That's my thing. I like to spend a ton of time with my family, man. That's my leisure time, really. I just do a lot of things with my family, man. I'm home most of the time, but when we go out, we go out. And, I spend a ton of time with my wife, a ton of time with my kids, and that's my leisure time.
Any shows, anything you watching? Like, are you into TV?
I'm not a
game. You still be gaming? Like,
yeah. I play PS5 a lot.
yeah. What games you playing, man?
I repeatedly play Spider-Man, but
That's dope game.
2K. You know what I mean? Madden. I like those types of games. I'm waiting for Spider-Man 2 to come out.
I saw that trailer.
Yeah, it's gonna be coming out soon. Yeah. So that's what I like to do. But for the most part, man, I'll be chilling, man. Yeah. I live below my means. I live a happy life, man. Happy family. Everybody's good. We healthy. And right now, my wife is taking care of her mother-in-law. My wife is taking care of her mother, and I'm just trying to support her with that. You know what I mean? Her mother has cancer, same cancer that my mother passed away from. My mother died in 2017. My mother was the GOAT, man. You know why? Because she sparked the interest for me to be able to become an entrepreneur, giving me that $20 that day. And, at the end of the day, whenever, like, my wife, I understand what my wife is going through now because I done been through it. My wife went through it with my mother. My mother was her second mother. So now that she's taking care of her mother, I'm just trying to be supportive of it. So my wife she takes care of her mother 3 days a week. I work 3 days a week, and we spend 4 days a week together.
That's dope. That's dope.
You know?
What brought you down here? And we're going to wrap up pretty soon. But you started out, you're from New York, right?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So what brought you down here to North Carolina?
Good question, man. So I moved from Brooklyn to Pennsylvania January 1st, 2006. I bought a couple of 100 houses in Pennsylvania. The reason I moved to Pennsylvania because I started buying houses there before I moved there. So I said I might as well move. I like this area. It was a better way to raise my kids in Pennsylvania. But I think North Carolina was a better situation for us. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law moved here over 20 years ago. So my wife and I were coming down, visiting just about every year, sometimes a couple times a year. Back in 2014, I said, let's stop visiting, let's just move. You know what I mean? Move closer to her mom's. And, so they were here first and we came out to visit. I kind of knew the Greensboro area anyway, and I just decided to come down to North Carolina, man. I like it here, I don't know if it's my last stop, but I'm here right now.
That was a good decision, man. Good decision to come down here and to come to Best Buy that day, man.
Yeah, that's right.
I met this guy.
Best Buy.
I was working there part time, man. He came in. I could tell he didn't know. I worked in the camera department. I could tell he didn't know what he was looking at.
Yeah.
And chatted with him. He told me he had a YouTube channel. I pitched that, hey, I can do this for you, man. And that's how the friendship sparked, man.
That's right.
But yeah, man. So how can the people find you, man? Like what platforms?
Yeah, man. Jamel Gibbs across all platforms. Check me out on Instagram. I still, believe it or not, have a Facebook and YouTube, man. I'm also on LinkedIn, but just check me out at Jamel Gibbs. That's my handle on all social media platforms, TikTok, all of that.
All right, and for right now, you still putting out content on YouTube right now, though, right?
Yeah, I enjoy putting out content, man. Lately, I've been putting out a lot of podcast stuff, but let me know what you want to see on YouTube. I'll be happy to create that content for you. I put out content every week on YouTube, at least once to twice a week, and the audience is growing pretty nice. I think for where we are right now, I think we're heading in the right direction with it.
All right, and one last question for you. I meant to ask this earlier, but are you teaching your kids the business? Do you want to put them into this or?
Absolutely, man. Only if they want to be in. I'm not going to force it on them, but we did that video with my daughter. She picked up that check for $13,000 when she was 14. I am teaching my kids the business. My kids are into other things as well, so I teach them how to make money in general. You know what I mean? I'm a hustler. I don't back myself into a wall of just being a real estate investor, man. I'm an entrepreneur all the way around. So I don't just invest in real estate. I know how to make money, period. I know how to survive. To me, making money is about survival. and then knowing what to do with the money is about growing. Is about, not how much money you make. Is about what you do with the money in order to keep the money coming in. And that's what I'm teaching my kids, right? So at the end of the day, to me, is beneficial for me to understand how business works, because I can use that to teach my kids anything that they want to do. So my daughter, same daughter that made the $13,000 check when she was 14, she wants to start a t-shirt business now. Okay, that's common sense for me. I understand business. So I'm showing her today. I'm actually going to be working with her on her t-shirt business, drop shipping business. My other daughter, she wants to do something else business-wise. They're into making money. They have the entrepreneurial spirit, and they have me to support them and help them in any way that I possibly can. So that's what we're doing.
That's dope, man. Well, look, man, I appreciate you for coming on the show, man. This was a great pod, great conversation. And we're going to wrap it up here. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Like this video, share it. Go follow this man. I did my first deal maybe like a month ago. All because of him. So you can learn it, man. Go check him out. And I will see you on the next episode. Peace.